At 9:40 a.m., the progress bar glowed at 98%. My heart beat a little faster as I leaned closer to my monitor, feeling the weight of the $500 million merger I'd been working on for over a year. The servers in New York, London, and Tokyo hummed, a pulse of green that told me everything was on track. One more micro-update, one final line of code, and everything would fall into place. I had barely a minute to go when the ping came. Outlook flashed on my screen. I ignored the first chime. Distractions, even the tiniest ones, could be fatal in a moment like this. The second ping rang sharper, like a slap against glass. Urgent Zoom meeting with HR. I stared at the invite, disbelief flickering across my face. It was 9:45 a.m. This was a production freeze window. No calls, no meetings, nothing non-essential. Why would HR interrupt now, with everything on the line? I knew they wouldn't do it unless something serious was happening. I clicked the link, already bracing myself. It was marked confidential, but I had no idea what this was about. I joined the call. 3 faces materialized: HR, legal, and a silent observer. The background behind them was cold, corporate, sterile. There were no personal touches, just endless gray, lifeless walls, exactly the kind of atmosphere I dreaded. "Good morning, Belle," Ms. Hastings, the director, began. Her voice was monotone, almost rehearsed. "This is a termination meeting. Effective immediately. We regret to inform you that your position is no longer needed." The words felt flat, distant, but they slammed into me all the same, reverberating through my chest. The room behind me, my home office, felt quieter, as though the world outside was holding its breath. My fingers hovered over my keyboard, but I stayed still. The words, though they weren't even finished yet, were already final. A termination over Zoom, while I was literally closing a $500 million deal. It felt absurd, surreal, but then I felt it. The thin thread of rebellion. I was so close to completing the deal, so close to securing everything I'd worked for. The company's future, my financial stability, everything. And they were doing this now. I stared at the progress bar on my screen. 99%. One more second, one more minute, and the deal would be done. But if I left the Zoom call now, they would revoke my credentials, cut me off mid-sentence. If I stayed, they'd call me insubordinate. Either way, I would lose access to the system I'd just spent months meticulously building. My hand hovered over the mouse, fingers shaking slightly, but I wasn't going to let them have that satisfaction. I opened a hidden terminal on my other screen. Buried deep inside the system, it wasn't something most people knew about. It was my safeguard, my insurance, a heartbeat monitor that ran in the background, ensuring that the servers, the networks, the entire system would stay online as long as I was in control. The timer was ticking. 9:43 a.m. The meeting hadn't even been going for a minute, and I already knew how it would end, unless I rewrote the ending myself. I glanced at the clock. 9:44 a.m. 1 minute. A lifetime. I opened the file labeled Project Helioset Final Review. A simple, innocuous title, but inside it was the trigger. If I executed the command, I could freeze the entire global network. But I wouldn't do it right away. Not until the deal was done. Not until they understood the magnitude of what they were trying to take away from me. The meeting dragged on. Ms. Hastings droned on about company direction, about restructuring, about streamlining operations. They spoke as though I wasn't even there, as though I wasn't the one who had been keeping the entire system running for the last 6 months. Working late nights, dealing with all the high-level crises. They just saw me as another expendable asset. I looked at my phone. A text lit up. St. Luke's billing. $12,000 payment declined. I felt my stomach tighten. My mother was sick. She needed her treatments. Without the insurance or the bonus that was supposed to come through today, we couldn't afford the next cycle of chemotherapy. I swallowed hard, pushed the thought to the back of my mind. I couldn't let myself break now. Not when everything was hanging by a thread. The clock ticked closer to 9:45 a.m. HR kept talking. Legal kept nodding, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was focused on the monitor in front of me, watching the progress bar inch toward completion. 9:45 a.m. and the patch hit 99%. Another second. Another heartbeat. I muted the Zoom call, then let the silence drag on. The progress bar inched forward. 99.1%. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, and for just a moment, I wanted to enjoy the stillness. Then came the first click. The security admin had logged in. The next notification, the same. Credentials revoked. System locked. I didn't flinch, not yet. I clicked on the bypass command in the terminal and watched the red alert vanish from my screen. They thought they had control. But I knew better. I was still inside. A voice broke through my thoughts. Belle, we need to discuss your severance package. You'll receive official documentation within 5 business days. Ms. Hastings was still reading from her script. They weren't listening, not really. Not to me, not to my years of work. Not to the hundreds of thousands of dollars they had just flushed down the drain by doing this now. I glanced at the other screen. 99.9%. One more second. I opened the bypass chain, the kill switch I'd embedded years ago, just in case. This wasn't a threat. This wasn't a bluff. This was me, owning the system, owning my work. As HR's words droned on, I pressed enter. A green notification flashed on my screen. Reverse boot chain activated. The servers, from Singapore to Frankfurt, from London to New York, blinked out one by one. The network went dark. The patch stalled, unable to complete without my key. I had taken the entire grid offline, and the company wouldn't be able to restart without me. For a second, I felt nothing but the weight of the silence around me. My fingers tingled. I could hear my own breath, steady but shallow. My heart was still racing, but the cool calmness of control washed over me. They had no idea how bad this was going to get for them. I looked at the HR director's face, still focused on her script, oblivious to the chaos I was orchestrating behind the scenes. You'll receive a severance check within 5 business days, she continued, eyes still fixed on the document. We thank you for your time at the company. That's it. I finally spoke, breaking the silence. You fire me, and you don't even have the decency to look me in the eye. She froze. The room seemed to shrink, the air thick with tension. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Ms. Hastings asked, clearly surprised by the question. I smiled, but it wasn't a smile. It was the sharp, satisfied grin of someone who had already won. Watch the logs, I said. I clicked a button, and the screen went black. My face was replaced with the company logo. I was cut off, but I had already won. In the next few minutes, panic set in. HR's meeting link disappeared. Another alert popped up, this one from legal. They were scrambling, trying to figure out why the system wasn't responding, why the merger documents weren't going through by the time they'd realized what I had done. I was already deep into the process of securing everything from the encrypted logs to the termination files. Everything. I had everything they would need to clean up their mess. The meeting had been terminated, but it was just the beginning. I had secured my victory as I sat back, watching the chaos unfold on my screens. I knew this was the moment they would regret. The world was waiting for me to act. The company had underestimated me. They had thought they could just erase me with a single Zoom call. But I had other plans.